All right, Black Box Radio. We're in the Rona Report. Today we have Brother James Mayo. Say hi to the people, brother.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
How y'all doing?
Love it. So, Brother James, tell the people, what do you do professionally? What would you be doing normally in, is this May, April?
Well, honestly, I just started substitute teaching after 10 years of full teaching. About 4 or 5 years ago, I came out of the classroom and I basically substitute teaching. I played for Wiley Funeral Homes, both locations, one out in the one out in the county, one here in the city on Mount Street. And I play professionally for Perkins Square Baptist Church on Warwick and Emerson. Come see us.
What's the name of the church again? Say it again.
Perkins Square Baptist Church.
Okay,
on Edmiston and Warwick, right on the corner, big stone, gray stone church.
Yes,
Dr. Mason's my pastor.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's basically what I do, and I have my own non-profit core ensemble, CameraWriterBaltimore.org. Y'all can check us out there. Just kind of got my hands in different things. I sing with Baltimore Choral Art Society. Anthony Blake Clark is the artistic director there. And of course, I have my I'm gospel choir director for Johns Hopkins University. So busy.
Wow, you didn't mention that you're a Facebook Gospel Jubilee artist, did you?
That's only recent because of this COVID.
That's how I met you in Gospel Jubilees. Okay, that's amazing. So you teach? Did you teach music or?
I did. I taught. Yeah, I taught music. My whole career. I started in like 2005 in Baltimore City. Taught for 2 years there, and then I did some teaching in the private sector at several different schools. And I taught music. Specifically, I was teaching choirs. So I did a lot of development work on like building different choirs at different schools and things like that.
Yeah. So how has that been affected? Because singing is a more intimate, especially in churches. So how has that been affected? Because you're very enshrouded in the community and being outside and in different arenas. How has the Rona affected all of that?
Honestly, the being able to get together. Well, first of all, let me start with this. So we can't get together. Yep. It's basically, it's non-existent at this point. So we went from, hero to zero, and like there were a number of choirs. We were all at the, getting our spring concerts together. And a lot of that in the arts professions have been canceled. Everything has been canceled. But we're doing our best, especially for many of my teacher friends who are still in the classroom. They've been able to kind of bounce back a little bit from, using virtual assistants in classes and things like that. But it's still hard, because you've got kids who play instruments who need that kind of one-on-one attention that they can't really get virtually, and they kind of need that human interaction. Parents don't know how to play the instrument. They're not too knowledgeable about it. So it's like, it's been very difficult. And like I said, we were, preparing all these different concerts. And so all of those, it feels like for naught. But honestly, I know for Camera Out of Baltimore, we had a pretty big season coming up with we do classical stuff. So we were going to do Fauré's Requiem. We're just going to move it to next spring. So it's really affected the music industry. And I would even go as far as to say like it's affected performing arts, dance and theater and even visual arts. Like MICA is closed. Yep. So museums are closed. Like it is, and a lot of these people are freelancers. Yep. Very few people have access to full-time professorships or full-time music teachers and things because they have to be certified and all this other stuff. So, there are a lot of different facets to that the whole music thing. But so a lot of my friends are freelancers like myself now. And I've been one of the lucky ones, one of the blessed ones, really, that my pastor, Dr. Mason, has kept me employed as best as he can, given the tithes and offering that are coming in.
That's a blessing. It's absolute blessing. I mean, and when you're not a creative that sings or a part of the music world, you wouldn't know this. So it's amazing to hear that. It's a lot of people who created a niche or a space for themselves in this industry that has been it's gone. I mean,
right.
they can't work and don't know how they're gonna work. There's no propensity to work.
Right,
It's a
right.
very scary situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of, my constituents, they're all being very creative in their approach. So like we
Sure.
still have, we're creative people. So what we try
Mhm.
to do is, we try to make it work online. We do those virtual lessons through Zoom or,
Yeah, I was
through.
gonna ask you how rehearsal looks. So it's rehearsal on Zoom?
Yeah, well, honestly, that hasn't been my testimony. So
Okay.
I haven't had to do lessons. I've done all of my lessons, not recently, but I usually do all of my lessons in person. And I've kind of backed off of the market of private lessons for now.
Mm.
But yeah, a lot of my friends are doing these private lessons, and they're using their iPads and using their iPhones to really make it work. And, looking at little Johnny, and his fingering on his string, on the board of his guitar or on,
Mhm.
look at his fingers on piano, or even so far as to listen so keenly to the voice. You got to teach people how to sing. Like I was witness to a lesson that one of my friends, Christian Isaiah Simmons, who's this fabulous bass baritone, I saw him briefly doing something on his Facebook with his teacher, the incomparable Kevin Short, who's a dynamic bass and sings for the Met and all this other stuff. And they were doing a lesson. And it was incredible, like how he was able to still hear, even with the added thing of a mic, because the voice is authentic and it has a distinctive sound. But when you put it through a mic and pipe it through a mic, it can be a little twangy. And so there are a lot of different, variables to take into consideration, when you're teaching instruments and stuff like that, this whole environment.
So, as a young person, I learned, I was being taught the piano, in other words. And my teacher sat on the same bench on the side of me. She was amazing. But she would look at my fingers and then she could play what I didn't do right. And I could see. You understand what I'm saying? So,
right.
Because I'm a very visual, I need to see. So I remember that. And it was so important for her to be there and see my fingers and me see hers. And also when you're younger, your fingers are smaller, so the extension it needed.
Right.
I was learning all of that as I was really young. And then when I got in high school, I played the trumpet. And I remember my band teacher would move my fingers
right
on those three. And it was so amazing for him to do that, because that's how I learned. And so now all that intimacy is gone.
Exactly. And I think of like string instruments to go as far as like a fretless, like string instrument, like a violin, those,
a viola, yep.
Yeah, being able to have like, a teacher say, okay, you're a little too high because the pitch is too high. You got to move it here. And they have to be they have to be able to convey all of that information online and, be able to tell and speak, at different levels for different, kids. At different ages, they were doing that before, but you have this added element of not having that human interaction and just kind of being able to say, okay, move it here and, move it for them and them feeling good about it. So it's really, this time is really, really interesting.
Yeah. One of the big things, it is a different way that you need to communicate. When you lose, certain aspects of the sensory experience, you have to alter your communication to fill in those gaps.
Absolutely.
So the biggest gap or the biggest challenge that a lot of people are having is understanding the depth and clarity of the communication that's required to fill in that sensory gap.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much that you can convey in your body language and with motion that when you lose that, you need to be explicit in the other forms of communication in order to fill in those gaps. So the learning curve for educators is understanding where those gaps are and figuring out ways that they can effectively fill those gaps and deal with the constraints of a mediated education experience.
Absolutely. And I would agree with all that. It's basically just like, a person who suddenly went blind, to give an example, who has to, like you said, their senses have to be enhanced and they have to learn.
Right.
Same thing with educators, they're having to take, in a very short amount of time, adapt and adjust to what's happening, in this climate. So, yeah, I totally agree.
So you have like two sides of your sort of creative practice as an educator and also as a performer. And you spoke briefly about being able to share performances online and things like that. Mm-hmm. I guess the biggest challenge for a creative professional who's going to be performing online is now, if you were doing a show here in Baltimore, okay, people will come out and maybe you competing against what's going on in Baltimore. Now, if you go online, you competing against Babyface
and Teddy Riley.
And Teddy Riley. Like, you know, so if you're performing now, you're trying to gather an audience. Now, it's the whole world is what people have an opportunity to check out. So
yeah, it's hard.
And it was hard before. I mean, you know, because everybody, think of it this way, like prime example, we all weren't online, but you know, there were enough of us who have gotten sick of the recording industry and the tactics that they use in order to try to get money from indie artists or artists who are on their label. So we transferred to places like United Masters or to TuneCore, who allowed us to be, you know, indie artists and get all of our royalties.
Your own label, yeah.
Exactly. You know, and so you have to compete against all of that. You have to be your own distributor. You've got to be your own website designer. You've got to be all these different things, but you still have the freedom to be creative. And I think that's the trade-off for so many people. But I think a lot of musicians honestly don't even think about all that analytical stuff. They just want to make music.
They just want to create. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And you know, and that's not to say that's not there. It's definitely there, but they just don't think about it. I know when I first started, like, I didn't think about any of it. I just wanted to make music. I didn't worry about who was listening. And the thing is, like, a lot of you'd be surprised to know that a lot of stories of a lot of these artists who have started, it was all very coincidental. You know, they were just, you know, they weren't looking to make a whole lot of money. They were just in it to do it. And their heart was right. And it just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And it just happened. And they went viral. And, you know, it's the universe works in such mysterious ways. You know, you got people like myself who do it professionally, and, you know, we need to make money, and that's kind of our primary focus. But then you have these other people who just like, you know, the hell with it. I'm out here, you know, just trying to make music, and then all of a sudden it happens. And of course, those
and then everybody hating.
Right. We're a little jealous. Because I'm like, look, I've been out here for 30 years. You know, I done put tens of thousands of dollars into this education and blah, blah, blah. And,
all these hours, and then it's just somebody just has a really cute idea.
Yeah. And you know, so there's that dynamic as well. So I mean, it's a lot. Like you said, there's so many people now online, but I think I think part of the solution to this is just being authentic in your approach and the spirit behind which you do these things. I think that has such a huge effect on how, you know, people how people will receive your music, because like I said, spirit conveys spirit. Like, you know, people can recognize as real. And so people know, you know, when you're out to really just be making money, and people know, you know, just by listening to your music, like what you're trying to do. You know, you'd be surprised at how like connected we all are on that level, especially through music. So, yeah.
They said that's the universal language, bruh.
It is. It really is. Like, it's the only language where we can all communicate, you know, where we can all really communicate and communicate well, and be calm about it without, you know, causing wars.
I know, because around the world, they don't know Trump, but I bet they know Michael Jackson. I bet you go anywhere in the world and they know some Billie Jean.
That's what I was just and guess what? I was just thinking Billie Jean when you said it.
But I promise you, Michael is everywhere.
That's it. That's it.
That's what music does. It infiltrates everything.
Hey, that's it. That's it. It's the key.
And that's why it's so powerful. And they understand when we create new genres, they come for it because they understand the power. You know, and they understand what music does and how it can infiltrate and how it changes people's thinking and how it can wake people up. Music is just an amazing it's a stimulant.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's absolutely that. So, brother, James. So we really, which you have laid down is amazing, because me not being a musician, it's amazing to hear what you're saying, but it's so in line with being a creative. And when you a person that create, then it's like we all are feeling this hit. I don't care if you create music, or if you create something else, or you outside creating pipes that sing, or you create drums. You still cannot create at this moment. Right. Well, you can, but it's limited, or it's not the way we usually create. So it seems to me like this coronavirus has changed the way we move as humans. What do you think about it? Like when it comes to because we have no interaction, we got to change everything.
Well, I will say that there is a whole generation of people who have always created this way in these circumstances.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true.
Those people? Talk to me.
Basically any basically any recording artist that's come out in the last 10 years, more than likely, he got his beats off of SoundCloud from another producer that's making stuff. They never met each other. They recorded it right in their room at their house. So there's a whole generation of people who are able to create in a distributed manner, and that sort of dominates the sound in popular music right now. So there are people who are kind of enculturated into this way of creating, but the mass majority of people aren't.
Yeah, because if you create information, or you create, just like us, I mean, you have to create a whole new movement, because music is a creation, but it's so many things people are creating that they have no platform anymore, because Corona has actually taken it. And now we are in a virtual movement, but can it be applied to every creation? That's the question.
I think that's a good question. And I believe so.
Okay.
I think so. I believe that, and if it can't at this point, it will. I don't think that, right. Or it'll die. Yep. You gotta make the best of the situation. And this is certainly my mom and I have been discussing, we're not going to be returning to normal, and people kind of need to get that in their heads too. We're going to have to do some serious adaptations, in all facets of life. And so that's just, and that goes outside with music and, outside of music, everything. So if you can't create now, if you couldn't create in a digital world, which was before this whole COVID thing, it's kind of like a hybrid type of thing. Now we're moving strictly to digital and online stuff because we're having to, and so you got to really make that switch. You're gonna have to do it.
And that's why I said that. I'm glad you said that. And like your mother, you segue, my mother, they're in another spot in their life. They're not looking to create no technology. Right. But the number one thing is now, if you are creating, and I'm telling anyone, please get virtual. You're going to have to change the way that you do things, because we are being engineered towards technology. Even if you don't like it, you have no choice.
You have no choice. None whatsoever.
So it's a wake-up call.
Yeah, because it's going to leave you behind. If you don't know, it's like Darwinism. It's just the survival of the fittest. You better get on the train before this train leaves the station.
You're right. If it's not already closed.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Shoot, you may have your ticket and everything else, but that train taking off and you ain't on it.
That's the truth. That is the truth. And that's where we are. And a lot of people are looking around at their hands, but you better if you don't have computer, or you don't want to be computer savvy, the way that the 21st century is moving, it's going to leave you behind. It really is.
Absolutely.
And that's the truth. COVID it's only exacerbated it.
Exactly.
It's happening anyway. Let's be clear. So don't act like it hasn't been happening. It was happening. Now it's
being forced.
Actually happening.
Yeah.
As you say.
Yeah. Everybody, you got to get on board.
Get on board. Old, young, I don't care the young people, they did.
Oh, yeah.
It's us crusties.
Right. Generally the young people were there. My godson, I could talk about him.
Yeah.
He is not really into computers. He's a sports kid. which is completely kind of opposite of me because I don't know how that bond happened. But he's an athlete and he doesn't really have a love for computers. He likes social media. Now that's his thing. You know, but as far as like getting on and doing word processing and all this stuff, that's just not his thing.
Word processing?
No, what? I mean, being able to type because they take it.
Brother James, you don't do that, no.
Well, I'm saying, and you can see I'm old.
Program.
What's word processing?
Say it together. Programming.
Oh, see, old school language. Word processing, you know. And I got that probably just thinking about Microsoft Word, but in all seriousness, like, you know, he's not into like using Microsoft Word and all that stuff, you know. And he'll have to.
He will be.
Well, I think the point that you're making is there's tools of consumption and tools of creation, and so there are a lot of people who their interaction with technology is to consume.
Yep.
It's not used to create anything.
Agreed. Absolutely.
And I think that's the majority population. The majority consumes. Of course, it's made for consumption, but it is actually a tool for creation, as Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, Brother James, we're at the LYT, the Jubilee time. So at the last will and testament, that is something we leave with the people. We inspire. You could talk to them. I know you're incredibly talented. You were supposed to be at the pipe organ. I did speak about my pianos, and I'm not getting that. But we need you to leave something amazing with the people. I know you have incredible talent, so we would love some of your talent. But if it's something you want to say, but leave a jewel with the people.
Absolutely. So I just want to say, everybody be encouraged, you know, and, you know, get out here, create, and get with the times, you know, because these are the times that try men's souls. So yeah, that's what I got to leave with y'all. I'm excited for what's.
I never interview, man. I never interfere in nobody's last will testament, but you're not going to do that today. No. You done said be encouraged. You got to leave us with something. If you're going to say be encouraged, you need to sing some of Be Encouraged.
Okay.
If you're gonna, you know, like my sister did the Tyler Perry thing. I forgot what that was. Your whole world in your hand or something. You got to give us something.
Okay.
Lines. Come on with it.
Okay, I'll give y'all. All right, I'll do the Donald Lawrence. Sometimes you have to encourage yourself. Sometimes you have to speak victory during the test. And no matter how you feel, speak the words and you will be healed. Speak over yourself. Encourage yourself in the Lord.
Amen. Thank you, brother.
Be encouraged, everybody. We're going to be all right.
Amen.
Brother James, thank you so much for taking some time this afternoon to talk with us and to share your experience as an educator, as an artist, and a performer in this unique time that we're experiencing in history. We really appreciate your perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me. I really appreciate your time.
For those who were just listening to those beautiful tones and this interesting conversation, if you want to hear more voices from the Rona Report, you can find them at blackboxradio.com. That's BLAKBOXXRADIO.com. Also on Facebook and Instagram at Black Box, and on Twitter at Box Black. That's BOXXBLAK. And please, if you're hearing this now, make sure that you share it with your friends and family so all these important voices can be heard.
Yes. Brother James?
Yes.
We so appreciate it. I mean, you just inspired me so much with that Donald Lawrence. I thought he was in the building.
Oh, that's very kind. I appreciate that. Thank you so
really
much.
In your words, I mean, we really appreciate your perspective, especially in the music industry. So thank you so much for your time. All right, so we're in a Rona Report. It is 4/22/20. This is Black Box Radio. We out. Peace.